The moment Daniel Carter saw the thin woman sitting on the cold pavement with her head bowed and a cardboard sign trembling in her hands, his breath froze somewhere between disbelief and fear. The world around him blurred, the city lights, the winter wind, the endless noise of traffic, none of it mattered anymore. Because the woman begging on the sidewalk, wrapped in a torn coat and shivering as if the cold was hollowing her from the inside out, was his ex-wife, the same woman who had once sworn she would never fall, never break, never ask anyone for help. The same woman who had vanished from his life 3 years earlier without explanation, leaving him alone with their 2-year-old son and 1,000 unanswered questions. Now she sat on the street like someone life had chewed up and spit out, and Daniel felt his entire world tilt beneath him, as if gravity itself had shifted. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that every human has a story worth listening to, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, it truly means the world. For a long moment Daniel could not move. The past slammed into him with the force of a speeding train, yet his heart refused to shield itself. Marisa, the woman he once loved so deeply he would have walked barefoot through fire for her, looked like a ghost of herself. Her hair was tangled, her cheeks sunken, her hands trembling around the paper cup where a few coins clinked in the icy wind. Daniel wondered how life could destroy someone so completely. He wondered how he had gone years without knowing. And then, despite every wound she once left in him, he walked toward her, not as the man she broke but as the man who still remembered the way she used to smile when their baby laughed. The winter air stabbed through his coat as he stood before her, his shadow falling across her face. When she slowly lifted her head, Daniel felt something close to heartbreak splinter in his chest. Her eyes, once bright green like fresh spring leaves, were now dull, exhausted, and swollen with something deeper than sorrow, something like shame. She recognized him instantly. And in that silent, fragile second, Daniel understood that whatever had happened to her was far bigger, far darker, than anything he had imagined in his years of anger and confusion. He remembered how their marriage had fallen apart slowly, like a rope fraying strand by strand. She grew distant, restless, sleepless. She clung to her phone. She cried in the bathroom when she thought he wasn't listening. She kissed their son's head with trembling lips. And then one morning, she was gone. No note. No explanation. Nothing but her wedding ring left on the kitchen counter and a hollow emptiness filling every room of the house. Daniel had felt abandoned, betrayed, and terrified all at once. He never forgave her for leaving their child. Never forgave her for walking away from the life they built. But now, seeing her like this, all that old anger melted like frost in sunlight. Marisa tried to speak, but her voice cracked like old paper. She looked thinner than Daniel had ever seen her, fragile, breakable, like something a single gust of wind could crush. She wasn't just homeless. She looked haunted by her own past. Daniel's heart constricted as he knelt beside her, the city roaring around them, but in that moment it felt like the whole world had narrowed to just the two of them and the truth hiding in her eyes. He reached out, but she flinched, not from him, but from the instinct of someone who had been hurt too many times. Daniel saw the bruises peeking from under her sleeve. He swallowed the rising panic. She wasn't just lost. She wasn't just poor. She had been running. Her voice finally spilled out in weak, trembling words that shattered the last pieces of his old resentment. She told him about the man she had left with, a charming stranger who promised her excitement, freedom, and a life far brighter than the quiet, modest home she shared with Daniel. He turned out to be manipulative, violent, and controlling. He isolated her, took everything she owned, and when she tried to leave, he made sure she had nowhere to run, no one to call, no money, no documents, nothing but fear. Daniel listened, feeling each detail cut deeper into him, a mixture of anger, sorrow, and disbelief swirling in his chest. She had not abandoned her son because she stopped loving him. She had left because she believed she was protecting them both. The man had threatened Daniel's life if she dared go back. She had lived in shelters, sometimes on the streets, always looking over her shoulder. She never contacted Daniel because she feared the man would find him, find their son, and take revenge. She carried this fear like a prison, and every night she prayed that at least Daniel and their child were safe. She had sacrificed her home, her dignity, her entire identity just to keep danger away from the people she loved. And now, after years of running, she had broken down completely, left with no strength, no hope, no path forward. Daniel felt his world collapse under the weight of her confession. All those years he spent believing she chose another man over her family, all the anger he'd swallowed, all the resentment he had allowed to shape him, it all crumbled when he realized she had left to save him and their son. His chest tightened painfully as he imagined the hell she had lived through alone. He realized he had judged her without understanding, hated her without knowing the truth, moved on without recognizing the scars she carried for their sake. When he gently asked why she was on the street now, she whispered that the man had been arrested months ago, but by then she was already too broken to rebuild her life. She believed she didn't deserve to see her son again, didn't deserve forgiveness, didn't deserve even a chance to start over. She felt she had ruined everything, and now she was simply surviving each day as if waiting for life to decide what to do with her. As she spoke, Daniel saw not an ex-wife, not a ghost from his past, but a human being crushed by circumstances, guilt, and fear. He took her hand, and for a moment she looked terrified of the kindness. But Daniel didn't let go. He realized that despite everything, despite the past, despite the silence, he could not walk away. Not from the mother of his child. Not from someone who had suffered so much alone. Not when she finally needed him. He brought her home. His son, Oliver, now 5, stared shyly at the frail woman his father introduced as someone important. Marissa wept silently when she saw him, her child, her baby, the reason she endured years of torment. She held herself back, afraid he might fear her, but Oliver, in the pure innocence only children have, walked over and put his small hand in hers. That single gesture broke whatever wall she still had left. Daniel watched as Marissa held their child with trembling arms, as if she were holding a piece of her soul she thought she had lost forever. The days that followed were slow and fragile. Marissa was like someone learning how to exist again. She would wake up from nightmares, pacing the hallway with silent tears. She apologized constantly for burdening Daniel, for invading his life again, for being someone he now had to worry about. But Daniel spent those days realizing how strong she must have been to survive everything alone. He helped her eat again, regain weight, find warm clothes, sleep through at least a few nights without fear. He listened. And in listening, his heart softened in ways he never expected. A part of him healed too, the part that never understood why she left, the part that always felt abandoned. He helped her get counseling, medical checkups, and eventually, with time, the pieces of her shattered confidence began to rebuild. She started helping around the house, cooking small meals, reading to Oliver, laughing softly at the cartoons he loved. The house felt fuller, not because they were a couple again, but because there was healing, forgiveness, and a quiet sense of rebuilding something broken into something stronger. Before we continue toward the final moments of this story, if Marissa's journey touched your heart even a little, please take a second to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who might need hope, and subscribe so more people can hear stories that remind us what strength, love, and second chances look like. Your engagement truly keeps stories like this alive. As weeks turned into months, Daniel and Marissa found a new rhythm, not romantic, not forced, not rushed, but human and gentle. They talked about co-parenting. They talked about forgiveness. They talked about rebuilding trust. There were still shadows in her eyes,